Snow fell cold on a bitter night. John was gone for the morning light. They blame Karen, but it don't sit right. Too many secrets hid from sight. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town. Proctor's story shifts and sways. Cameras vanish, records fade. The Alberts toast while the doubts grow strong. The folks still fight, won't be long. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town. Proctor's story shifts and sways. Cameras vanish, records fade. The Alberts toast while the doubts grow strong. The folks still fight, won't be long. Oh, the badge runs deep, the law runs thin. They stack the deck, but truth won't bend. The judge looks away, the truth gets drowned. Ain't no justice in Canton Town.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, what if any you might be. And welcome to Let's Fill Some Time, because we are all bored. Oh my. Hey, KRM944, and welcome to the live, but thank you for watching the replays. I was sitting yesterday thinking, what, if any, should we do? And I thought I wanted to watch Dr. Stonebridge, because we talked about her Wednesday, because they called Dr. Aizik Wolf instead. And I was sitting there thinking, why? Because I remember her last year as pretty good. Maybe not good for the Commonwealth, but I don't feel any of the lab people have been that good for the Commonwealth. So was there some kind of reason why they chose the other guy? Because when we saw his testimony, that wasn't particularly good for the Commonwealth. Again, I rewatched it, and even though he said cold ground, frozen ground a lot, he was actually saying that everything was consistent with a slip and fall. And a slip and fall isn't consistent with being hit by a car and then thrown to the ground. So I know it's hanky-panky. I know he's kind of shady. Not the Slim Shady kind of shady, but the kind of shady. But it just seemed weird to me that you have this very highly skilled forensic pathologist, forensic neurosurgeon, and you choose a guy who did his last autopsy while Reagan was in office, because you wanted to, again, it's kind of like with the kittens, when you have the keychain in front of them, you want to dazzle people so they don't hear what they really are saying with all his, well, I get up at 4, and then I make a cappuccino for my wife at 6, and oh my, and then I'll save the world. It seemed more like you kind of know when you have a bad football team, and then you have one of your mates who plays a couple of divisions higher, and you say, hey, can you come play with us on Sunday? And you can pat your stats a little bit because he's way better than the rest of them. It seemed like he kind of just wanted someone who could sit there and say he was the greatest man on earth and not really say anything, because he didn't really help anything. Hey, go back to my OnlyFans. New content up soon. Let me just say, I have tried some really inventive manscaping this time, so I think you would like it, Volstorm. If you put your fingers in brains, you're weird. Well, everyone who touches brains are weird, no matter if it's alive or dead brain. He wasn't the witness Hank thought he was. He paid a lot of money for him, so he must have talked to him before. But I think the problem was he was not willing to lie either. The only people... A slip and fall isn't the same as 5,000 pounds traveling 24.3 miles per hour slamming you to the ground. Exactly. Because there's a lot of momentum not taken care of. Stonebridge, the brain on the brains. Yeah. Dangling a carrot in front of a horse. No, that's to make it walk. I'm talking about distracting, kind of like you do with a cat when you shake your keys, it'll get, oh, what's happening? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Kiki K. Nobody asked him how many of his patients died. It's not that important. No, I saw that he had a battery charge back in 2017. Again, to me, it doesn't change that he was a qualified doctor for what he's doing, but he was just not really qualified to talk about post-mortem brain stuff, especially a brain he never saw. That's another thing. Why are we calling in these people who didn't have first-hand knowledge of it when we have a very highly credited expert? To me, again, it just seems, I know the jury doesn't know this, but why wouldn't you call her? And that's why I wanted to rewatch it and see how bad it was. If anything, he made that case that falling back on concrete basement floor was just as likely. Exactly. The boom is way different than flying through the air. And don't mention X-Sleuth today, because I can log on I can go on Twitter on my phone, but my tablet and my PC has stopped working, and I can't log back in. Really annoying. Yeah, I wanted to do a special on this today, actually, also, but because I have all of it bookmark on the TwitSwat, and I can't log into my TwitSwat. I couldn't do it, so we're going to do Stonebridge again. Well, thank you, Cynthia. No, it's not. Actually, this time it's not me, because every time I go, it says log in. I'll try to log in. It say put in your two-factor authentication, and it says error. So, TwitSwat. Your Twitter wouldn't let you access messages. I think something yesterday, there was a fire somewhere in the Twitter universe. I think it was in Texas or somewhere. And that's why Twitter was really bad last night. And maybe they did some protocols that effed things up. If John was hit by a car with a glass in his hand, the glass would be in the driveway, not next to him. Mark, I did all of that with the help of Bender. And again, if he's standing like this, anything he would have here would be snapped out of his arm, and his socket would be snapped out of his shoulder. But that's why I'm glad that all the tech people are agreeing, not consistent with being hit by a car. True or false, Hank has been doing every direct knowing Bev will open up redirect to everything under the sun unless there's no meaningful cross. Hank has been doing every direct knowing Bev will open redirect to everything. Yeah, he has had way too much leeway on his redirects. Bev have let him go way further than scope on everyone. But again, there hasn't been any objections, so it's a little bit on the defense as well. I think Alessi had one day where he got kind of infuriated and said, it's way beyond scope. But other than that, yeah. I can't say if I ever seen a sideways reversed mohawk mullet inverted fade on a tainted. Oh, my mainscaping. Oh, yeah. Just wait from OnlyFans. Thank you, Lefty. You are a peach. Twitter issues today. Yeah, well, it'll probably be fixed up. I'm a little surprised Baker isn't more grumpy because of it. I'm not grumpy because I haven't seen all the retards all day. I really hope the defense called Dr. Stonebridge. I love her. She's so cool and so smart. I remember her as pretty efficient. You have his brother. Whose brother? It's like a second close with the hair tough guy. He did most of the data on redirect. Yeah, because direct was just, hey, aren't you amazing? And then he just went. But again, I don't think it was good for the Commonwealth. I don't know. So, yeah. You can't ask Rainbow Glass Lady if she knew people 3 degrees separated hurt. I hit him. Yeah, why didn't they ask that for Dr. Wolf? In your expertise as a brain surgeon, if someone heard, I hit him, is it true? Any word on jury interrogations? Yes, the jury was interrogated. You won't get anything. First of all, there's no other people in the room. Second of all, there is a gag order placed on the entire. As you can see, whenever they leave court, Karen is the only one talking because there's gag orders put on the lawyers. The only thing I can say with 100% conviction is it has nothing to do with John DePetro because he would have been kicked out, not the jury. So the only thing we have is rumors, and rumors are kind of like Roy sits on the back of a guy who's on roids. Way too many of them, and they turn kind of gross sometimes. Well, I'm sorry I get in there sometimes. Lefty streamed when I went to the gym this morning. When exactly did Officer pass, or how long to die? I don't understand that question. I'm sure the defense called Stonebridge, they already did the groundwork building her up with the ME. Yeah, I could see that as well. And I think, what did they do last time? 3 days. I really hope they're going to do a better job and then focus on how bad the investigation was and the reasonable doubt. I don't get many DMs. I had a weird experience yesterday, and kind of why. I went into a. You might seen I shared a link to somewhere yesterday, and I said something in chat, and the host kind of got. Ooh. I was like, why? They got starstruck with me there. Those stars are pretty dim. Hey, Bit Blazy, been a while. Good day, Diane. Good to be back. This retrial is epic. I thought Dr. Wolf did very well for the defense. Do you think the defense will begin their case next week? So looking forward to it. I think depending on how good bad Dr. Welcher is, defense will start maybe Wednesday after dinner. So Bev will probably call it a half day, and then they're getting started on Thursday. So Marissa will be handling most of the defense because I will be frolicking in the lovely state of Tennessee. So Grant cracked it open again. He's amazing. Grant is claiming you can hear Karen ask to Google search while Jen is calling 911. Grant is also claiming that he is not functionally retarded. I've seen Grant.
And I know that Grant is really, really, really stupid.
Hey, Miami Spice. Are you going to join us for the big old Dollywooding 2.0? Hey. Yeah. By the way, when I get bored, you know I do stupid things. And this is what I did this morning because we were talking about someone needed some resting type intro.
The master of the mind game whispers your downfall, you don't even know his name. Silk tongue, steel trap, every word a blade. The sweet talk, you're right into your grave. Call deadly, A-L-E-S-S-I. Just weapon, pays the decree. Sweet word, sharp turn, now you're down on the floor. Brain buster hits and you ain't getting up no more. Call deadly, A-L-E-S-S-I. Logic's his weapon, pain's the decree. Sweet word, sharp turn, now you're down on the floor. Brain buster hits and you ain't getting up no more. He don't yell, he persuades. He don't fight, he invades. Step in the ring and you'll understand. This ain't brawn, this is chess, play my hand. Call deadly, A-L-E-S-S-I. Young logic like TNT. He'll outthink, out of the make you regret. One brain buster later and you're losing that bet.
Don't give me too much time. Lefty isn't a retard. Be nice to Lefty. He's a little slow. Andrea might like this one. I can make it available on my Twitch. I can't do it on Twitch. On my YouTube, she's welcome to use it. You are in East Tennessee. Well, if you have time next week, come join us. I found out today Aunt Bev is 65 years old. Well, the claws haven't been kind. How could that happen? Like assessing my phone pics over Twitter? Is that a thing? Yeah, you can set it. You can go in if you want to share a photo and take it from your phone. Hey, Aaron. But let's do what we got here to do so we all can go back and have a nice casual Friday off and get ready for tonight where we're going to have Friday Night Live with the experts.
I'll give to the court and the jury in the matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, thank you.
Great. So once you sit, I'm going to tell you that you have to keep your voice up. We want to keep our air conditioning on. So just if you'd speak loudly into the microphone, that would be great. Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Lally.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your...
Oh, then that's some hacking. You need to change your password imminent.
last name for the jury?
Yes, my name is Renee Stonebridge. Last name Stonebridge, Stonebridge.
And what do you do for work?
I am employed through the chief.
Why is I saw this? Her name is Renee. Why does she have a K tattooed on her shoulder? Maybe her hobby.
Medical examiner's office at Boston as director of cardiac and neuropathology and medical examiner.
Now, if I could ask you just a few questions about sort of your educational and work history background, if that's all right.
Yes.
Starting with your bachelor's degree.
No, I am not a lawyer. I am Danish. I am a baker by trade, but the reason why I do trial coverage is because I can't remember, but I think the last 14 years I have been what we call a layman in Denmark. This is our juror system where you are elected or you apply to be a juror, then you get elected for 4 years at a time, which means that you will continuously do jury duty. You are not picked like Americans from the street of the voting rolls. You do it just you get elected for a 4-year period. Right now we are running from 24 to 27 are the 4 years, and then we have to reapply to if we want to do it again. So my level of cases is anything that can go from 2 weeks in prison till I think it's up to 6 years now, which is most in Denmark. 6 years is a long sentence. You really need to be a bad guy to do this. But I've been doing it for 14 years now, I believe. Maybe, I think it's 14 years I've been doing it. Maybe longer. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe. But so I don't have any legal background. The only background I have is that I have a lot of court experience sitting here listening to testimony and then helping convict or free people based on what we hear in court. So I am a non-lawyer, just a weirdo who likes to follow court cases because you just sit there. And it's not a professional juror. It's not professional. I've said that many a time. It's a public service that you do, that you sign up to do. And then normally you'll do like 4 to 6 cases a year, but because I'm on the quick call list, I would say a normal year I do like 20 cases. So I did one. I got called in yesterday. That's why I couldn't actually. I was thinking about streaming, but got called in to have a case yesterday at 1 a.m. my time, and wasn't done till 4 o'clock. So that was fun. He was a little bit annoying. He really liked to yell at us and call us a not pleasant word in Polish. Starts with a K and ends with a urwa. But hey, but no, that's the reason why I like doing trial streaming, is because I do a lot of cases every year in Denmark and have been doing for a long time. And it's everything from someone falling asleep behind a wheel and unaliving someone by accident with them driving into them, till someone who unalived his girlfriend because she didn't want him to go out and have a good time. Women, am I right? So I've spanned the spectrum of. I never had an arson case. Yeah. Other than that, I think I've done everything. The horrible kid cases, grapes, violence is just whatever now, and of course the big red rum. So been around the block a few times and had a few cases.
Where did you go, and what, if any, area did you receive a degree in?
So I went to SUNY at Stony Brook in New York. I was a double major in biology and Germanic languages and literature. I graduated with a bachelor's of science degree.
This is the same. We are kind of assistant judges. We just sit there and then we help. We do the same as a juror. We are just sitting there. And then we go into a room after and say, hey, what do you think? And then we say, well, I don't think he did it because that didn't match up, or it didn't sound like she really said no. It's a lot of those are the worst cases. Those fake grape cases. They're really hard cases. Does anyone remember the name of the lawyers that BB mentioned and the expert podcast interviews her about John's injuries? I think about Rubio. I'm not sure.
After that, I went to the American University of
Oh.
Antigua for medical school, and I graduated with honors, magna cum laude. After that, I did a 4-year combined anatomic and clinical pathology residency program at NYU Winthrop Hospital in Long Island, New York. After that, I did a 1-year forensic.
Yes, we are allowed to make as many notes as we will. We're not allowed to ask questions directly, but I can pass a piece of paper to the judge and say, hey, when did he say he went into the house? I'm allowed to do that, but we're not allowed to talk. So I don't know what that means.
Pathology fellowship at the Boston office of the chief medical examiner. And after that, I did a 2-year neuropathology fellowship program through Brown University at Rhode Island Hospital.
And doctor, are you board certified?
Yes, I am board certified in anatomic pathology, clinical pathology, forensic pathology, and neuropathology.
And if you could just explain to the jury a little bit about what does board certified mean?
Board certification means
Vermont Brett Smith, I had the same thing last year. I thought she could be a little more professional, but after seeing her a few times, I just think that's her style. Yeah, it's not what I would choose for court, but hey, I go to court in hoodies, so probably not what people would think is appropriate either. The back shot, she's taking a nut from a needle. Oh, she's doing jello shots off her back.
means that every medical specialty has their own board. So for example, the American Board of Pathology dictates whether or not you can be board certified based on certain criteria. So you have to meet certain criteria, meaning that you have to complete a certain number of surgical specimens, a certain number of autopsies. And then once you meet that criteria, you can take an exam, which if you pass, leads to your board certification.
Now, if I could ask you just a couple, and your board certification is up to date at this point, is that correct?
Yes.
In each of those areas that you just spoke of?
Yes.
Now, if I could ask you some general terms as far as if you could.
Yeah, hearing that she's not pursuing a degree currently really makes me uncomfortable with her level of professionalness.
Define them for the jury. First of all, what is pathology in a general sense?
Pathology is essentially the study of any sort of disease or abnormal state of the body tissues. So anything that can go wrong in the body and any of the body systems is essentially the study of pathology.
And now starting with anatomic pathology, what is anatomic pathology more specifically?
Anatomic pathology consists of the study of surgical specimens. So for example, if someone goes to the hospital to have a tumor removed, that specimen will go to pathology. The pathologist will look at it, cut it, look at specimens under the microscope, order any ancillary tests if necessary, and then make a diagnosis, which is then conveyed to the clinician. Anatomic pathology also consists of cytopathology, which is looking at individual cells. And then it also consists of autopsy pathology.
And as far as clinical pathology, what is that?
Clinical pathology is anything that is lab related in pathology. So if you have to get blood drawn and then the results come back, that is clinical pathology. If there's any sort of blood work that needs to be done, for example, if you're going to have a surgery and they have to cross-match and type you in case of a blood transfusion, that's considered clinical pathology. Also microbiology, so anything infectious. So essentially anything that goes through a lab is clinical pathology.
And what is forensic pathology?
Forensic pathology is the study of autopsies in a medical legal sense. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be something that is legal. Sometimes it may be just a person who has not seen a doctor in many years, dies at home. There's no physician that is willing to sign a death certificate. So we work on those types of cases, plus anything that is non-natural.
Now,
no, Marissa is one of my mods who will run my channel. I have to go to the US, not next week, but the week after. I'll be in the lovely state of Tennessee for a fan meetup. And while I am away, Marissa will be running the show. And she will be dropping the ball on half the chats that Brandon sends in, and then she'll get Valhalla demonetized again.
Neuropathology, what is that?
Neuropathology is the study of the brain, spinal cord, eyes, muscles, and nerves.
And if you could, just again, in general terms, as far as casework is concerned, related to your work as a director of neuropathology, can you explain to the jury sort of what it is that you do with respect to neuropathology?
Yes, so my job primarily entails me to be a consultant for the medical examiners. So the medical examiners have a certain set of criteria that they follow in order to determine whether or not a brain needs to be saved for a neuropathologic analysis. So upon following that criteria, if the brain is saved, it gets put into formalin, which essentially fixes the brain so it firms it up, so it makes it easier to analyze. So after the brain has been fixed, I usually let them fix about 2 weeks. Sometimes it could be a little more, a little less, depending on circumstances. I will then look at the brain, take photographs of it from all sides, and then cut the brain, take photographs, document any sort of abnormalities. And then if I feel the need to take sections to look at under the microscope, then I will take those sections. They will be processed through histology. I will look at the slides. Sometimes you may have to.
Thank you, Donna Sloan. Valhalla gives you one here because he's trying to go for mod of the year 2025 again.
Add in additional testing, for example, immunohistochemistry, to see if there's anything in particular that you cannot maybe diagnose solely on looking at the histology. And then once that is done, I will issue a report to the medical examiner, and then they use it in terms of determining their cause and manner of death, if necessary.
Now, as far as that formalin process, as far as the solution is concerned, is there a typical time period that the brain would have to be in that solution prior to you examining it or cutting it or any of those other things?
Usually about 2 weeks, give or take maybe a few days here and there, but I usually try to let them fix at least 10 days minimum.
And again, in general terms, with respect to the types of cases that are referred to you, what types of cases are typically referred to you?
So part of the criteria that we use is that any cases for children or babies under the age of 2 years, those always come to me. Also, if there is any cases that have blunt head trauma that may be suspicious or homicidal in nature, those will typically come to me as well. Some of the other cases may be just a difficult neuropathologic entity that a non-neuropath trained medical examiner may not be able to really diagnose. And then sometimes there's cases that are just surprise cases where the medical examiner opens up the head and they see something interesting or abnormal, and they decide to save that case for me to look at further.
Now, with respect,
You have to have a really, really good psyche to do that. Work on kids. It must be horrible to always be the one they use for that. She must really have a great psyche. One thing is, this 65-year-old lady had a big brain tumor the size of a cantaloupe. Happens. But imagine getting a 5-month-old and have to figure out what happened to those ones. It's horrible. Well, 2 half-year-old brains are not that big either. She can probably figure it out, but still, yeah.
With respect to the cases that you do see, at some point did you become involved in analysis or testing of a brain belonging to John O'Keefe?
Yes.
And who was the doctor that was the medical examiner that made that referral in this case?
It was Dr. Renee Stonebridge.
And with respect to your analysis here, obviously you looked at the brain. What, if any, other sources of information did you review or did you look at in ultimately formulating your opinion in this case?
So at the time when I was able to cut the brain of Mr. O'Keefe, I had information that was relayed to us from our intake department. So when a case gets called into the medical examiner, it gets taken by the intake department and they're given kind of just a rough summary of the case. I also had the police report, I had the EMS report, I had the medical records from when Mr. O'Keefe was in the hospital. I also had medical records from the primary care physician. I had autopsy photos, and I also had, I believe just refer to my notes here because I had a lot of notes. I also had the inventory and tracking sheets, which are notes created by the medical examiner, and the neuropath request itself.
Now, are you familiar with some terms in relation to injuries that you would observe as far as from a neuropathological perspective, as far as injuries being acute, subacute, or remote?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury sort of what those are and what those mean?
So
I know she's not physically standing there with the kid and then taking it out, but still, it is a kid's brain. You can tell the differences, and you still need, first of all, just to do it. Let's be honest. To any death doctor, I've always said it is a little bit weird, but then a dead brain doctor it's kind of, I think she might be an interesting person to have a talk to. But again, it also shows the trust in her capabilities, that because, again, if it's a 70-year-old man who fell because he was old, yeah, they're probably not going to do that much. But if it's a 1-year-old, they want the best of the best to test it.
So it depends on circumstances. Acute generally is something that it happened within a very short time frame. So when I refer to something as being acute, I usually refer to that as something that's occurring from the time of an injury to maybe a day or so afterwards. As I said, it's variable, dependent on circumstances.
American Dreamer, I know it's Friday, but behave. I'm not really into nose rings.
Subacute is something that has not happened within the last few minutes, few hours, maybe even a day, and maybe something that is now in the process of healing. And then chronic is usually something that has happened a while ago in the past. You may see some sort of evidence of some type of injury in a chronic state. You may also not see any evidence because it may have completely healed by that point.
And so from your analysis in this case, how did you characterize, in your opinion, from everything that you reviewed as far as the injuries you observed in Mr. O'Keefe's brain?
The injuries I observed were acute injuries, meaning that they probably occurred minutes to hours.
Now, if I could turn your attention to your findings as far as when you conducted your analysis and your testing in this particular case, what, if anything, did you find as far as injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's brain?
So when I look at the brain, what I do is I look at all surfaces from all sides. And one of the things that I look for is anything grossly obvious, meaning anything I can look at the brain and see that there's something there that shouldn't be there. So one of the first things I noticed was a subarachnoid hemorrhage. And subarachnoid hemorrhage is something that occurs when you have bleeding within the leptomeninges. Leptomeninges are a very thin membrane.
Yeah, they have their own ME, but this is not an ME. This is a brain surgeon, pathological brain. She's a death doctor for brains. So I might be remembering, but I think she actually did really well, and I would call her again and again, also to point out that Hanky didn't call her. I think that could be a good point to put in the face of them, that why isn't Hanky calling their own witnesses? Get the feeling that 80% of the chat wants to play with, because Jeepers. Hey, T-Rex. I had forgotten how irritating What If Any Lally was. Still like him better than Hank. Well, I think Hanky is annoying because he's such a slime ball. Lally was just annoying because he was stupid. What if any children do I have? I have 2 children, 2 and 5 years old, and they're called Marissa and James. How old are they? 2 and 5 years old? Are their names Marissa and James? Yeah. He because he didn't listen to questions. He has this checkbox mentality, so he got really annoying. I think she's a quadruple board certified neuropathologist. Thank you, Brybear.
Brain that encase the brain and the spinal cord, and there should not be blood freely floating within the leptomeninges. So if you have a subarachnoid hemorrhage, most of the time the causes are either a ruptured aneurysm, which is something I would see upon cutting the brain, or some type of trauma. So that was the first finding.
Can I stop you there just for a second? Of those taking notes and for our court reporter, could you spell the type of hemorrhage and the membrane?
Yes. Subarachnoid is subarachnoid.
Sounds like subarachnid, which would be really bad. Imagine having spiders inside your cranium. I don't mind spiders, but I know some people are not fond of them. Imagine if they were running under your scalp. Hank is certainly a sleazeball, but at least he wasn't asking every single person, even if it wasn't relevant, and they went to the scene in the summertime, how much snow that night. The thing is, Hank is actually, he proved how much snow there was that night. And because we were yelling about that the last time around, that could we just get a mythologist in here to meteorologist? I can't say that word. So we can find out how much, if any, snow there was. They did it in this trial, and it proved that Carrie was a liar, because Carrie claimed that she had to brush off 6 inches of snow from John's face, which would be kind of impossible because, first of all, it had only snowed 3.3 inches over the last 24 hours. And even with snow accumulation and stuff like that, his body was also 80 degrees warm. So there would be snow melt off. Yeah. What? Did she review the ME findings? She did not actually analyze John O'Keefe. She actually touched his brain and she analyzed everything. She said it in the beginning, and she did the ME's report. I think she did the police report, and she did the EMT's reports as well. So she mentioned 4 things. I'm not sure what, but she looked at all the reports, and she had John's brain. Yeah. It's Friday.
And leptomeninges, leptomeninges.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, with regard to anything related to the aneurysm that you indicated that you would have seen, what, if anything, did you see during the course of your review or testing or analysis of Mr. O'Keefe's brain?
So aneurysms are typically seen in the cerebral vessels that sit around the base of the brain. So there's something called the circle of Willis, which is the main arterial supply. It sits around the base of the brain, and it's kind of shaped like a circle that has vessels that come off that extend to other areas of the brain. So typically, if there is an aneurysm that is ruptured, it's going to be located somewhere in one of those vessels. So upon observing those vessels, I did not see any evidence of any aneurysm or any sort of natural disease state that might have led to a rupture in one of these vessels. Also, sometimes these vessels, since they do go deep into the brain, you may only see the rupture upon cutting the brain. And I did not see any evidence of any rupture of any of these vessels anywhere in the brain.
Now, as far as the subarachnoid hemorrhage that you observed, where was that located within the brain? And if you could,
So the
Yeah, because it was complicated, she reached out to this lady. This is why she's on the case. And that's what Alessi talked to her about when he was questioning her. That's why I'm thinking she might be called, because she was kind of built up like being one of a kind.
The subarachnoid hemorrhage was on the frontal poles, which is essentially right here in the front of the brain. So the frontal lobes obviously sit in the front, and then the poles are the very frontmost portion of the brain. So it was on the frontal poles. It was also on the left temporal pole. So the temporal region is right here in the temporal region. And because of the way that the temporal lobe is shaped, it kind of has a little loop right in the front. So it has a pole as well. So it was on the left temporal pole. And then it was also in the left lateral fissure. So you have a frontal pole here. You have the temporal lobe right here, and then the lateral fissure goes kind of in between the temporal and the frontal lobes. So you have the hemorrhage here, and then hemorrhage right there. So it's kind of all concentrated almost in one area. But then there was also hemorrhage of the posterior surface of the right temporal as well. So on this side.
now, doctor, I'm probably going to butcher this horribly, but just as far as the bilateral unci, are you familiar with that?
Yes. So the unci are the medial portion of the temporal lobes. So the brain is essentially oriented in a way that each hemisphere, the
And this is hard stuff to figure out, what a lobe is and what, because we all kind of know what a brain looks like because we've seen the drawings and stuff like that. But I like the way that she's trying to explain where the bleeding was and stuff like that. Dr. Wolf was just let me cut you right off there. I'm actually God sent.
right and left hemisphere are the same. The unci are the most inner portion of the temporal lobes. So the unci sit just next to the brainstem. So if you have anything that causes herniation of these unci, they start to push inwards onto the brainstem. So say this is the brainstem, here the unci, they start to push in. And because the brain is within the skull is hard, you have no room for any sort of expansion of the brain. If there is herniation, it will start to push in that area because the brainstem turns into the spinal cord and goes out of the skull through the foramen magnum. So you have this hole about this big or so at the base of the skull where the brainstem turns to the spinal cord, then comes out. So that's one of the only areas in which the brain can actually move because it's encased in the hard skull. So if you have herniation, it'll start to push and then push downwards.
Could I ask you to spell unci?
UNCI.
And with reference to this bilateral unci area, what, if any, herniation did you observe?
So when the unci herniate,
I don't know where that claim come from with the bumping of the head the day before, because we never heard it in the first trial. And then all of a sudden, someone claimed that Karen said something about him bumping his head. But he would, if it was because they know it's a really bad thing for their case, I don't know what they're trying to do with the bumping of the head that Karen talked about. What I'm really interested in is, did she call this an indentation or a flat? Because I believe that the ME said there was an indentation on the skull. But Dr. Wolf said that it was just a flat. There was no kind of depression of the skull. So I just find that one odd, especially when there's so much force that it breaks the skin open, as we saw. Real question is, why would Scotty Belly say in the report death wasn't a result of an altercation? I haven't heard a clarification. Did she? I don't know. Yeah, and she's really good at explaining stuff, especially squeamish things. I think she mentioned it in one of the interviews, but I could be wrong. Okay, I don't I can't remember it. But I didn't watch the interviews because whenever he plays these small clips, I just get secondhand embarrassment for him and also for her defense team, letting her sit there and do them because they knew it could come back and hurt them. Emmy said a depressed fracture, but old guy said not depressed. Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why I wanted to rewatch this and see if she talked about it, because there was radiating skull fractures from the point of impact. And I believe, but I'm not sure, that she's asked about if it could have been an impact with like a bat or something.
It can be subtle. Sometimes if it's herniated enough, you may see hemorrhages in the brainstem. And this happens because this tissue is now pushing on
She had the brain.
the brainstem, and it's essentially being compressed. So there was herniation.
Yeah, but there's no report of that anywhere. And Bukaki didn't talk about that interview last year. But they had to have him talk about it this year because they're not calling Proctor. So he also said, I hit him to Bukaki, according to him. But Proctor didn't put it in any report, and he didn't mention it last year. So my level of I trust Bukaki is about the same level that I trust Afad after Taco Bell.
Noted. And then there was hemorrhage within the brainstem.
Now, if I could ask you, Doctor, just to be familiar with the term or medical term known as a contusion.
Yes.
And can you explain just in general terms to the jury what you understand that term to mean?
So a contusion is essentially a bruise. It's blood.
No, but they actually get this with this lady because she says it's the squishing of the brain, because your brain is in a really hard case. So if you get force applied to it, it will shift and then come back. That's why there's bleeding on the front of it, because it shifts forward in the skull.
Blood that's coming out from a blood vessel. It's a blood vessel that has been broken in some way, and now there's blood coming out.
Now, you're also familiar with another term.
Well, if I had my Twitter working, and now I lost my access to Twitter on my phone as well, so I think there's a big something going on. But I actually saw Dr. John DePetro claim that the injuries to John's head is from the spoiler. This is the new anti-theory, is the spoiler on top of the car clipped him in the head while it hit his arm. Didn't fracture his skull, even going 24 miles per hour. Didn't really do much, just gave him a contusion over his eye and gave him a cut on the eyelid. Nah.
Part of that term known as a punctate contusion.
Yes. So punctate is essentially just a way to describe the size of a contusion. When I say punctate, I mean something that's very, very tiny.
Yeah, I know, Danny T. I think that's why I'm losing access on all my devices. So, hey, I can't tell Plevin he's an idiot today.
It almost just like a dot.
And with respect to punctate contusion, what, if anything, did you observe in this O'Keefe's frame?
No, but this lady didn't talk about the orbital bone either.
And where was it located?
So there were punctate contusions in the frontal and temporal
Yes, ma'am.
cortices. So frontal, once again, is the front portion right here. Temporal is kind of right behind it in this area. And the cortex is the gray matter of the brain. So it's a thin strip that kind of just goes around the brain, and then the white matter is underneath all that. So in traumatic injuries, you can see punctate contusions or even larger contusions in the cortex. It usually indicates that the brain has been pushed against something, which is now causing these little blood vessels to rupture, hence seeing the contusions, because the blood is no longer contained in the blood vessels.
Queen Olive, why are they still thinking up theories at this stage of the trial? Because the Commonwealth we are all biased because we watched the first trial. We know how bad they are doing. But I think even if you didn't watch the first trial, if you are a new juror on this case since it started, we're 20 days into the case. They still haven't talked about how Karen Read killed John O'Keefe. We know there was a car. We know there was some backing up maneuver, even though they didn't show it on the GPS. They only talk about there will be a triggering event. No one has talked about the triggering event, so we don't know what it is. We know they were having a fight and then made up and then went out drinking. We know that she had been flirting with another guy. We know people in the house must be legally blind. We know John was found on a lawn. The only thing we don't know after 20 days is why is Karen Read accused of killing John O'Keefe? He mentioned it in opening statements where he effed up his timeline, I believe 3 times. He used the wrong times in his timeline. But they haven't at any point tried to put anything up to explain why the injuries to John O'Keefe is consistent with a car strike. And they haven't really talked about the car strike. So the antis are spinning their wheels because remember you had Plevin saying, well, just wait to the chip off. The chip off is going to be the thing that clears everything up. Then we had the chip off guy. And he said, well, I didn't really find new data. I just found an SD card. And I'm so stupid and chasing a degree that I missed that the data actually was there. I never saw the raw data, but I read a report, so I claim it happened. This case should be in, and I know that the rule is in the light most favorable to the state, could they reach a verdict? But I believe, and I might be wrong, I'm not a lawyer, I am a very opinionated Danish guy. I believe that Bev, at this point, when the state rests, unless something really, really damning comes in through the guy who's going to talk about the key cycles, she should dismiss this case. Because the only evidence you have at this point is Jen claiming she heard her say, I did it, I did it, I did it. You have the friendless firefighter claiming, I did it, I did it, I did it. You have firefighter not all saying, I did it, I did it, I did it. My own daughter was watching Not All yesterday, and she said, I'm trying to watch this as a juror. This guy isn't doing really well. And she didn't watch the first trial. She was asking me a question about what the case is about, and I gave her the fast overview, and she's not buying it. And I feel 20 days later, I don't know anything about what they claim happened that night other than Karen Read and John O'Keefe was drinking, and Karen Read called Jen McCabe in the morning. Everything in between that, I have no knowledge of what, if any, reason they have for claiming Karen Read killed John O'Keefe, because it hasn't been presented in the case. Yeah, that's probably what she says. That's enough for manslaughter. No one will at all look at anything, because no one will go on TwitTwat and get recommended anything. Yeah, there's so much reasonable doubt that I don't think even in the light most favorable to the state, they should reach a verdict. I also know juries are notoriously bad. So of course they can do whatever they will. But I actually at this time believe that we are way worse. This is day 28 last year when she was testifying. And they had a stronger case last year than they have this time. Because they had talked about the injuries and how he flew through the air. Actually, I think Trooper Paul, no, it was Garino who was on right before Dr. Stonebridge. But I don't think there's beyond reasonable doubt at all. I haven't done that at any point, but I think the case is weaker this time around. Way worse. If I had to sit through this in court, if anyone tried to talk to me about it, I would tell them to F off. Yeah, but you also know there's someone who had a white claw yesterday and their finger kind of slipped on their wife's phone, so she was studying something. Hey, Debbie Blair. That will never happen. Commonwealth has Judge Welcher coming, who is an accident reconstructionist. Yeah, but is he a good accident reconstructionist? He worked for a company that hires people that lies on their CV. Well, they also sponsor the Man of the Year, well, the Person of the Year in Massachusetts. Congratulations, Beverly Cannoni, for winning that one. Sponsored by the company whose two experts are sitting in her courtroom now, who she didn't allow to get wadied. Isn't that just magical? Not that I claim anything is rough, but off, but yeah.
Now, doctor, with regard to the subarachnoid hemorrhage, is there anything that you're able to do as far as measuring that?
It's hard to measure because it's usually pretty.
No, he doesn't. Wrong, Matt McCabe. Has nothing to do with him. I saw the rumors. People checked him. It's not that Matt McCabe. There's enough rumors going around about this case. It's not the same Matt McCabe.
Vague. It's not usually something that is a well circumscribed, meaning I could say it starts here and ends here. A lot of times it's subarachnoid hemorrhage because it's sitting in this space that it's not supposed to be in. It can spread, so it may be thicker in one area, thinner in another. So you may have some that may appear just as a very faint hemorrhage, and then some that might be very thick, which you can physically measure. So I usually just give an area where it is and say it's here, it's there, because it's almost like measuring something that has.
No, they had a bar. I really wish my Twitch worked. This is from the Glarus channel. Aperture LLC had this. Last night, our Aperture Northeast team was a platinum sponsor for the Massachusetts Bar Association dinner in Boston. We enjoyed getting to participate and share with many colleagues about the exciting things happening here in Aperture. But it says 1 week ago, so but that's the rumor. But no, Bev won the Massachusetts Bar Association Person of the Year yesterday.
As blurred edges, you can't really get a completely accurate.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Rainy Day. Now I'm spreading rumors, and I'm trying so hard not to spread rumors. It was the Norfolk County Bar Association. I thought it was the Massachusetts. But still, having a company sponsoring who is also providing experts in the case, it's shady in my world.
Measurement.
And what, if anything, were you able to observe or measure with regard to subarachnoid hemorrhage in the area of the left prefrontal lobe?
So it appeared thicker in that area, meaning that as opposed to it looking just like a faint red color that should not be that color, it was actually thick enough that it was obscuring the underlying brain parenchyma.
If I could turn your attention, doctor, just back for a moment to the punctate contusions that you were testifying about before. As far as your observations of those, was that one or more than one, or How many did you observe?
So there were multiple. There were multiple contusions to the point where it's not something that you can count. I mean, you could count it, but it would probably take a very long time. If it had been something like 1 or 2, 3, 4, maybe a handful, it would probably be something I would say there are 3 here, 4 there, but there were so many that it didn't serve a purpose to count.
And the number of those, what, if any, significance did that have in regard to your,
It's Memorial Day weekend. Someone on that will say something at a party. Well, we'll see Tuesday when we come back, because maybe Trooper Fanning will hear something that everyone will talk about at the police station, but no one really can prove. And then they'll hear the witness or the juror, and they will say, "Yeah, I was at the American Legion, but I don't remember saying anything." Well, she was drunk, so she said it. Kind of like the last time when Beverly kicked what people believe to be a pro-Karen friendly juror off the stand. I would like to take this time to reiterate that day 1 of trial 1, I said he could have just fallen down drunk. And Brandon, I would like to reiterate that I said, instead of just going with all of this, someone did this or do that, Karen hit him with a car, I would just have blamed it on a slip and fall. That would have been way easier because, again, he has all the telltale signs of a slip and fall except the head injury, but you can say, well, he was so drunk inside the house and then he fell, hit his head. This is where the vomit came from. And then he got up and we said, "Hey, we're going to call you an Uber." And he said, "I'm waiting outside to get some fresh air." And when they came out, he was gone. And they didn't see him when they left because most of them had left at that point. He had stayed behind, drunk a lot. And then when they looked for him, he was gone. They thought, "Oh, okay, he called an Uber. I was going to drive him home." And then everything would have been A-okay. They didn't have to plant any tail light. They didn't have to make a timeline. They could just have said, "Yeah, John was at the house." And we had a massive party. And after everyone left, he hung out. We were talking. We were down in the basement because Coco had gone to bed. And he slipped and he hit his head on the way to the toilet, or he was puking in the toilet and slammed his head. And I said, "Hey, brother, I'm gonna go get Coco and she can drive you home." And he said, "I'm gonna wait outside, get some fresh air." And when he came out, he was gone. And we thought, hey, maybe he'd gotten an Uber. It wasn't snowing that bad, but we thought, oh, what the heck? And then they found him the next day. He must have slipped and hit his head against the fire hydrant. That's what I would have done if I was living in that house. You go for her, not girlfriend, boyfriend. I could see you and her taking the dogs out for a walk.
your analysis, your observations, or your opinion?
Yeah, but you could say he slipped and hit. I have a pretty nice scar across my nose because I slipped and banged my head against the toilet once I was drunk at a New Year's party. Bled like a stuck pig. Luckily, I didn't break my nose. But I have had several contusions after drinking. Not that I'm proud of it, but I did have them. And just to confirm that even though it wasn't sponsored by Person of the Year, the Honorable Beverly J. Cannoni, Bar Association of Norfolk County. Richard S. Thack, 1, Esquire.
So given that there's multiple, it means that there's enough pressure in the brain that there were many surfaces that were pressing on the bony prominences of the skull, which was leading to a lot of blood vessels rupturing, causing these contusions.
No, if this had been a slip and fall, first of all, this lady would never have been called. Second of all, the ME, when she talked to the cops and said, yeah, he was drunk all night and he had fallen, you can see that that contusion on the right of his head. He slammed his head in the house. Is this consistent with him having a slip and fall while he was drunk? She would have said, yep, most likely. This case would have stopped right there. He would be put in the ground. A GoFundMe would have been raised. Everything would be hunky-dory. No one would have looked twice at it. And Peggy would have been a grieving widow, grieving mother. No one would have blamed Karen for anything other than taking him to the party. The problem is they didn't do that.
Now, I think you've talked a little bit, but just in general terms, if you could describe for the jury, what is a hemorrhage?
Yeah, he could have walked the
So a
wrong
hemorrhage
house.
is essentially blood that's coming out from a vessel. So it's like a bruise, hemorrhage, bruise, contusion. They're fairly similar. Some people use them interchangeably, but it's essentially blood that's no longer contained in a blood vessel.
When something is termed medically, based on your training experience as a diffuse hemorrhage, what does that mean?
So diffuse means it's over a very large area. It's not something that's just a tiny little
Very easy
area. You
explanation.
could say, okay, I'm looking at this person's, let's say, liver, and
First, Hauber, the thing is, you're putting it all into context with this case. Again, when John O'Keefe is found on the morning of the 29th, Karen is all blown up. She's taken to the hospital, but no one is claiming her tail light is busted. She must have hit him, because Brian Albert comes out of the house when Jen calls him and says, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. We were offering to drive him home yesterday because he was so hammered. Hey, Sergeant Lang, my good buddy. Yeah, can you see where he got that? Did you see that contusion he had over his eye? Yeah, we had him, we were down in the basement and he tried to go up and he slipped on the stairs because we were getting hammered. And I said, hey, buddy, I'm going to go up, get Coco, drive you home. And I went up and Coco was fast asleep. So it took like 10 minutes. When I came back down, he was gone. So I thought, okay, well, F it. He'd taken an Uber and we went to bed. Not one phone record would have been looked into. Not one Google search would have been looked into. Not one thing would have ever been looked into, because that would have been the perfect way to cover up this. He slipped and fell on his way home. Hit the fire hydrant, passed out, and passed away. Not one single person would ever have looked into that as a crime. Not one person. Especially with Proctor on the case, who wouldn't have been called because it wouldn't have been a death case. Did someone last year say they saw someone in 34? Yes, I believe it was Brian Higgins who said a tall, dark guy came in, which they then said, well, that was Colin. But Colin had left at that point, so he effed up. But he also put his Jeep on the road, and no one else saw that Jeep until he said it, and then everyone saw his Jeep. It can't be on their property, or they could be liable. Yeah, okay. They could drop him at the Asian house.
there's a
What was John's alcohol level? I can't even remember. I think we heard it.
2 by 2 centimeter hemorrhage sitting right there in the right lobe of the liver. Diffuse would mean there's hemorrhage throughout nearly the entirety of the liver.
Now, with regard to, you made a note as far as there being
Maria, if you follow on Discord, you'll get the notifications because I always tell you I'm going live there almost.
being a diffuse hemorrhage within the pons, P-O-N-S, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury sort of what that means and where is that located within the brain?
So the pons is part of the brainstem. So the brainstem starts right in the middle of the brain, and you have the midbrain, the pons, the medulla, and then it turns into the spinal cord. So the pons is kind of in the middle of the brainstem. And when you have hemorrhage in the pons, in this circumstance, it was because there was the herniation of those oci, which began moving closer and closer towards the pons, pressing on it, causing hemorrhage.
Think about it in another way. If he had passed away by a slip and fall, and Karen didn't wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, started looking for him, yes, he would have been covered in snow. What always struck me as weird the first trial was the Duncan's run. We always do that for his birthday. I leave it in his car. Why would you leave anything in a car on January 29th? I have a birthday in January. Normally, it's really bad weather. So why would you leave hot coffee and donuts in a car to someone who comes out at some point? Was that because someone should drive by and say, "Oh, Brian, something is on your front lawn"? Hey, I'm just speculating here.
Because now the tissue is compressed, the blood is not going to be able to flow in and out freely, therefore hemorrhage.
No, it's BAC is the blood alcohol level, so it doesn't matter how much blood he has or didn't have. It's the same measured per unit of blood.
Now, with regard to the totality of what you reviewed in this case in regard to Mr. O'Keefe, were you able to form any?
Grace, please. That's one I think. If Karen had woken up at 8 in the morning, hung over like a devil, like the rest, and then called people and said, "What the hell, where's John?" And when did the Duncan's run happen? That was like 8:30 or something. Wouldn't it be magical if she had gotten a phone call saying, "Oh, Karen, you won't believe what happened"? Then she would have been the grieving widow, and everyone could gather around her. The cops would have said, "Slip and fall, we don't look into it. This goes away faster than a beer in Valhalla's house." And everything would be hunky-dory. This is the ultimate, but she went looking for him, and that's why I think the perfect plan messed up.
Opinions to a reasonable degree of medical certainty in regard to the injuries that you observed to Mr. O'Keefe's brain?
I was able to determine that these are acute traumatic injuries. I know that.
No, he said he was hung over at 4:30. He went to the bar at around 6 in the evening, but we don't see him heavy drinking. We see him drinking beer, and if he's steady drinking beer, yeah, he'll get hammered. But again, a 2 point something, that's passing out levels.
Based on what I observed and in combination with the autopsy findings, that this is due to some type of trauma.
If I could ask, as far as you have certain findings as far as an intraventricular hemorrhage and occipital horns of the lateral ventricles, correct?
Yes.
If you could please explain to the jury what exactly does that mean?
Yes. So the ventricles are almost like a tunnel system of the brain in which the cerebrospinal fluid flows through. So the cerebrospinal fluid serves as a fluid that nourishes the brain. It provides a flow of nutrients, oxygen, things like that. And it starts in the frontal portion of the brain, and then it goes backwards towards the occipital, which is the back. And it also flows downward through the brainstem and then into the spinal cord as well. So the occipital horns of the lateral ventricles are in the back of the head, and having hemorrhage in those areas, in any area of the ventricular system, is usually indicative of some type of trauma. So there should not be blood freely flowing within the ventricular system.
Now, Dr. Stonebridge, with regard to your findings, you mentioned that your findings were that the injuries were acute and that the injuries were the result of trauma, correct?
Yes.
What, if anything, can you say or can you opine as to the mechanism for those acute traumatic injuries?
It was something that required some type of force, given that there were skull fractures. I can't say what type of force or how much force, but it was definitely something that caused some type of force, which led to the skull fractures and then the subsequent brain findings.
And the brain findings in particular that you made, were those consistent with the fall?
They can be, yes.
Can they also be consistent with being struck by a vehicle and then going to the ground?
Yes, they can be.
Thank you, Doctor. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
So he gets her to say it could be consistent with being hit by a car. He didn't get Dr. Wolf to say that. That's actually I forgot she said that. So she's actually more in line with the theory from the Commonwealth than Dr. Wolf is. Another reasonable doubt. Yeah. Didn't they say Proctor accessed the Ring app from John's phone? Yes, they did. But if you were watching the timestamp guy, he used the missing video that there was a note about someone saw a video that isn't it doesn't exist, and I don't know if the defense caught it because I had to listen to it on another channel. I thought, oh, he mentioned that when she comes home that night is consistent with when she turns off the car. But there's no video of her arriving at John's house that night. But there was mention last year from someone giving a note to Proctor saying he had seen that video. But that video doesn't exist. Funny. She's good, and she's really, this is what you want in an expert. She's a good communicator. She has all the weird words that she has to say, but she can point to where it is in the brain, and that's why I would rather have her than Mr. God Complex Wolf.
Cross-examination?
Yes, there was Dr. Chichio who wrote it down on the net.
No questions, thank you.
You're welcome.
Doctor, thank you very much. You are all set.
Thank you.
So that was all she talked about last year. Probably should have asked her a few questions to talk about the injuries to his face, kind of like they did with Dr. Wolf. They should have asked her about the break to the the eye bone. I can't say it now because I think that's one of those things that could make the jury go, But again, they choose to not cross-examine her. And I don't think her testimony was... I actually think Dr. Wolf's testimony were better for the defense than she was, because she did say it was consistent with being hit by a car. He did say frozen hard ground, but Lally could just have asked her that. But that is another thing that the Commonwealth invented for this case, is the cold hard ground, because they need something to explain how he hurt his head. But she didn't talk about if it was an indentation or if it was just a flat break to the neck, to the back of the head. So I don't know. I made a poll. If what did I ask? Do you think defense will call Stonebridge? And 48% says yes, she was built up with the Emmy. Remember, he was praising her and getting the Emmy to say, "Oh, she's a great neuropathologist." And I think that could be true. Yes, to stick it to Hanky, 33%. No, better to just let her be, 17%. 262 votes. I think I agree with what the hell? Oh, we got to see this.
Whew. Intense, folks. So did you hear that? Oh, of course you can see the Call Me Hank clip. But did you all hear that? Did you all? I think what she's saying is,
What? Why is Grant? I know I've seen his mother's tweets the last week. I know lead paint could be one of the reasons why, but oh my effing! What?
Why is he sitting doing this?
Can't he hear how annoying it is that he's constantly yelling into the microphone? Can't he hear that? One of the things, if any of you is sitting out there and thinking, "Oh, this guy calls himself a YouTube creator, I could do it better." The first lesson is get some okay audio, because there's nothing worse. We saw someone mention earlier she's taking us on the road. There's nothing worse than going listening to
Someone who talks like this.
it's well, he just had an audio issue. Yeah, he thinks he can hear Karen say, "Google how long to die in the cold" in the voicemail, which no one else has claimed. That the big problem when you are one of the antis, one of my streaming buddies reached out to me the other day and said, "Oh, there's a lot of people covering the Karen Reed. That's a little bit sad when people like you and Brandy has been doing it for so long." I said, "That's the part of the grift. Where there's numbers, you'll jump on it." And there's a lot of great creators who's been covering it this as long as I have. And people choose to go where they go. And we all try to be unique. But the problem is we can sit and talk about Dr. Stonebridge last year, where she talked about this and do a reasonable take. We can then have a little, could it have been something else off? But the problem with the antis are they can never really cover anything because everything must be something else. Because when evidence doesn't point in the direction they are lying about, they need to make up a new lie and a new lie and a new lie. And it's such a toxic community over there that everyone is fighting everyone. It's yeah, it's this is the new conspiracy du jour from Grant. Grant is, I don't know, he kind of comes off as a harmless idiot, but on the other side, he's really vindictive and hateful towards people, and throws his chair at people. But you can go to Twisted Tragedies, who this is one of the I do this things from the other side where I try to cover some of the stupid takes the antis have. She's now begging for a tent for I think a tent that cost $150 because she can't make the $33 it costs to run StreamYard. So now she's begging people to buy her a tent at Walmart. Hey, I'm a grifter. I don't beg. I'm very appreciative of anyone who subscribes or even wants to join as a member or sends a super chat. But all of these antis are just there to hold their hands out and beg. I don't know. They're horrible people, and they have, because all of this is a money-making grift. Mine is a grift too. I sell grifter merch, but because they all see this and think, I'm going to be Emily D. Baker, I'm going to be Nick Rekieta, just with no law degree, no skill, and no personality. I'm going to make that $1 million. But they don't make that million. They can't even make $33 to pay for their StreamYard, because the people they are streaming to are just nasty, evil people who are just there to hate on someone. And that's why they have to keep inventing all of this drama, because they are born by drama and they will die by drama. And you see it all over the internet. You'll get a big spike. If I started shit talking Valhalla and say he's not coming back next week because we're not supposed to talk about how the Docklands died, but I have inside information, I could get a beef war going, and we could live off of that for a month. But then what? Then I'll have to start a beef war with Mo, because I need the drama. People are here for the drama. People are so stupid. Cardboard sign: will lie about Karen Reed for food and a couch. Yes. Laurie Wallace, we will never find the truth because they didn't investigate this crime. They pointed their finger and everything was done by then. I'm not sure any of these people could afford a trip to Jamaica. But hey, if I make $3 million, I might go. You don't have a personality. I don't either. I just have an accent and a mind that's weird and goes different places. I have no skill, no personality, but have a law degree. Doesn't mean much. You do have a personality and you do have skill, because you have the gift of the gab, and you can sit and be entertaining. These people are just sitting there saying, well, my channel is really not doing well, everyone. Hey, it's the DSP way of streaming. I love to do this content for you, but I have to say, you guys, today, it's not like we made a lot of revenue. It's my time I'm using, you guys. I pay for all the electricity. I pay for the camera. I pay for the computer. I didn't even make 200 Danish kroners today. Come on, you guys. It's not like it's free to do what I do. Come on now. By the way, you can give me my wish list. I have toys for my kids there, because I can't. I'm too deadbeat to buy my kids' toys. I would rather sit on my couch and whine about how much money I'm not making on my YouTube. Come on now. I have my Venmo. I have my Binmo. I have my... These people, they should grift less and do more. Let's do what? Get me to 3 million, and then you and I go to hedonism. I'll see you there. I've come to the conclusion this might be solved as a cold case show 25 years from now. I probably have to ask God when I get to heaven. I'm pretty sure you can never ever find, because the body is gone, no surveillance videos there, only if someone sings. And at this point, no one has a reason to sing. I know everyone is saying, well, Proctor should just sing. Why? Right now, he's protected. Now, in a year's time, he will get a cushy job at some security firm with connections to the police. If he sings now, he'll lose everything. The only reason he should sing is if the feds really believed there was something shady going on and contacted him and said, hey, Mr. Proctor, we're going to set you up. We're going to give you immunity. And we're going to fix you up with a job in the future. So if you sing, you're safe. The rest of them, we know we are building a case. You can make us build the case, or you could be part of the case. Then I think Proctor could sing if they granted him immunity. But right now, there's no reason for anyone to come forward and say, this isn't what happened. Well, of course, the good reason that it would be the right thing to do, but people don't do the right thing. I mean, I'm just here to trying to make sure that Baker is a grift king. Also, Baker, did you get to go see your daughter, and are you doing that this weekend? Looking forward to meeting you again in a couple of weeks, Baker. Yes, I did go to my daughter's last weekend, looking at a house, and then I just got a notice from the realtor today that someone else has placed a bid on it. So that wasn't calculated, but I'll have to keep looking so I get closer to baby Baker. And yes, it'll be fun to see each other again in Tennessee in 2 weeks. Well, less than 2 weeks. I thought Brennan said he's not going to call the Aruba chicks. He changed his mind, but I'm not sure that the motion was granted. Was it granted? I don't think so. Wait, how does Attend pay for StreamYard? Well, can't you send money back to or claim your money back? Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Jacob Castro, over on the Rumblers. I would go just to remake the ripping and the tearing video. The chloroform risk is too high to stay as wingman. Sitting duck. Yeah, no fun in you. Yeah, unless he gets a deal by the feds, he will never sing. There's nothing in it for him. Well, his decency. He doesn't have decency. Come on now. That's yeah. Bev didn't rule no Aruba. He said he wasn't going to call them, but he filed a motion last week to call them. And I don't think we have a ruling on it. Actually, let me look, because I know Marissa talked about it today. I think someone talked about Aruba, but no, yeah, Bev did. We don't know if Bev have ruled on the Sullivan sisters, so they might come in. But again, it was supposed to be as a rebuttal if they came in. So that's the chat on your screen. Yes, it is. It's a new thing in StreamYard. You can put it up, but you can then see, as you can see now, you can see Slidey Pie over from Rumble. It's a new thing they just implemented. Some people like it, some people don't like it, but because I go on longer rants, so now both people on Twitter, not Twitter, on Rumble and YouTube can see what we're writing. And if I have Mo and Valhalla on, everyone can see what everyone's writing. I like that. If my GPS popped up at hedonism, we would both mysteriously disappear. Bring the wife. It's no problem. This whole Proctor has nothing to lose thing is just not realistic, not intellectually honest. He had a lot to lose. Proctor will be who he has a... he has a lot to lose. The thing he has to lose is everything. Unless he gets a plea deal with the feds, because they say, well, we have 80% of it, we just need the rest. Give it to us and you'll go free. Unless they say that, he's not singing. They're just going to call Welch right, who based his stuff off Burgess. No wonder they need 5 days to prepare. That's what everyone is believing. Again, if you're going to call the Sorry Sisters, what are they going to do for your case? Say that Karen got jealous that John was hugging, potentially kissing a 25-year-old girl a month before. And remember, and this is the thing I say every time we talk about this case, but there's a few new people in here today. This is where Fairview is situated. This is the route they took when they drove there the first at night. And they claim that Jen had said, turn at Bella's mom's house. And then they claim this is what made her so angry that she killed him, because she was still jealous over Aruba. But Jen also claims she said, they talked about it when they drove past Bella's mom's house the next morning, but they took a different route. So where does Bella's mom's, and why does this come into the story? It's one of those what the F things in this case for me, because Bella's mom doesn't make sense, and they need Bella's mom for Karen to have a motive to kill John. She was jealous, and she had shown her jealousy previously on Aruba. And that's why when she heard Bella's mom, who had banged John 10 years ago, so had John ever told her about Bella's mom? Why would you use her? And again, wouldn't John, if someone said, who's Bella's mom? Say, oh, it's someone that Denise goes to school with. Oh, okay. Would he say, yeah, oh, I laid some massive pipe on her 10 years ago? Why would that start an argument? I just don't get it. Hey, diddly riddle. Hope you're doing better. Why does Bella's mom fall on the hot crazy? Where does... I've never seen her. No one has ever brought in Bella's mom. Didn't Karen pay for the girls' room? She did, because she got upset, and then she thought, oh, let me be nice to you. Again, if, as Mo said, if she had seen Mr. Mo tonguing a 25-year-old, no one would have their rooms paid for, because she would have been on the first flight out and not paying anything. The defense called Mr. Proctor well and about crying yellow babies, but I don't want to talk about that. Why are you dreaming of crying yellow babies? Isn't that gummy bears? That's kind of weird. JT likes pipe. Well, yeah, a month later, because she's told turn left at Bella's mom's house, she says, Bella's mom? And then she kills him. Because it makes perfectly sense if you don't think about it. It makes absolutely sense that when Jen says, oh, remember Bella's mom, turn at her house, that then Karen will look over and say, who's Bella's mom? Oh, it's just another chick I used to bang. Or would he just say it's someone that Denise goes to school with? As a man who, I am a virgin and I'm notoriously single, I know the game well enough that if a woman asks you about another woman, your question is always, I hardly knew her. But then why did she say it? Well, it's someone that Denise goes to school with. So I know her from PTA meetings. Oh, you don't have any? Nope, never met her. Okay. Because if you had said, yeah, we used to hang out together, the rest of the trip wouldn't have been pleasant. And I don't see, because with all the women, John, not to disperse anything on Karen Reed, but we have all seen The Fake Widow. I think he had kind of a type of relationships with women that was a little dramatic. I think he liked them a little dramatic. I think that put a little zest in his pipe that these women were maybe a little high on the hot crazy scale, but because that weirdo who sits there 20 years later and Carrie from junior prom, I think he had a type. So if he had that type, he also knew, oh, this is a minefield. Don't step on the mines. Can you write my name phonetically in Danish on this post-it note? Also, nobody has ever told me Hus to die in cold in 3+ years, and I want to know. Phonetically. I'm dyslexic. I don't hardly know what phonetically is. And a T-Rex is a T-Rex. The T-Rex. Fact. Oh. Mere. Sounds more like a company name. This is your name in Danish. Thank you, T-Rex. The whole Aruba situation makes no sense if you paid for the room. No. Yeah, she might get angry, but she also realized, oh, lost my head again. All the Aruba thing prove is Karen gets hammered a lot and acts like a hammered woman. No, she wasn't actually hammered. He got hammered. She was at home taking care of his kids. And then he found her absolutely not Frenching a 25-year-old. It would actually be sus AF if she wasn't a drunk. What? Yeah, this is how I see it too. Clearly, it was him who was out straying. It wasn't her, because she goes out to look for him because he didn't come home, and she's been alone with the kids for 4 hours, I believe it was. So I would have been, if you left me with your kids on New Year's Eve and you've been drunk all day watching a sports game, and then I come down and see you hugging a 25-year-old a little more perky than I am, I might have said, excuse me, good sir, can you take this foot and stow it right in your nether regions, in your lovemaking balloons? Yeah, if she got mad about women he had, and again, she was best friends with Carrie, allegedly, maybe, potentially. No, she didn't know her, but she did know her. She had met Carrie, and Carrie had gone to junior prom with John. Shouldn't she be about to unalive her as well? That whole group of people is weird to me anyway. He calls her into party because Matt can't drive him anymore. She shall drive, but then he fills her up at the bar. Yeah, it's an unhealthy relationship. I don't think they had a good relationship, and I think we can tell it by the video, the text messages. They had a combative relationship. It was a 2-year-old relationship where he and she probably wanted different things, and it happens. And you will go through ebbs and flows in a type of relationship like that, because as you get some social liquid lubricant into you, things might get better. You'll go home. You'll have a great night. When you wake up in the morning, all the trouble you drank away the day before is still there. You will still be met with the question, why did you yell at me because of the donuts to the girl yesterday? Why did you call the plumber when I could do it? And then you'll start the circle all over again. And then you'll say, oh, F it, let's just go to a bar, because at least when we're drunk, we have fun together. And I think that's probably the kind of relationship they were having. If Karen is a bit of crazy Bush, yes, sleeping with Higgins probably isn't morally right, but the only legal thing she did that night was drunk. The only thing she did, I don't even think she banged Higgins, even though you could, how was it the morning after could kind of imply that, but he seemed like he was a guy, even if she stood naked in front of him with a big old placard saying, please touch these and go down there after. He would still be. Do you want me to reach Radio Tokyo on these ones or what? Some of these profile names in chats are just too much for me. Never change, weirdos. Never change. Yeah. The only thing is you're looking at them thinking, Chloe Albert's Revenge. What the heck? Where's that from? Also, Commonwealth wants to make her the devil cheating spouse, but they were dating. Come on. I don't think it was a good relationship. Reading the full set of text like we did last year made me, and again, he shouldn't have died, but he was an asshole to her. That's what I read. He was state drunk, hung over at 4:30 in the afternoon, and then he said, "Hey, come up here so you can be my ride." I know he took care of the kids, and he's a saint for that, but I also don't think he ever got out of his bachelor period. Yeah, this is when you lose the rosy glasses, then you can see it. I think everyone but Hickey realized what Karen was doing texting him. He was just looking for approval, and he was just, what? Goodbye, Zach. What happened? Guys can be that way, though. Yeah, we are that way sometimes. Karen had to take care of the kids. The whole OK family didn't, so I totally understand her frustration. And then John was jealous that kids liked her more. Come on. Yeah, and he got mad at her for ridiculous things like calling a plumber that he could help fix it. Again, she doesn't want to burden him. It's, yeah. Being in lust and being in love are two different things. You have to have compatibility when the lust wears off. That's actually what I told my daughter when she called me and said, I want to move in with my boyfriend. And she was young, but they've been dating for a while. Said, just remember, everything you love about him right now will kill you when he does it in 3 months. No, said, that way he drops his socks on the floor, and right now it's just, I'll pick him up, no matter. You will hate him for it. The way that he leaves the seat up on the toilet, it's not just, I got a wet butt because I slipped. You will actively try and kill him. And just remember that the way he snores that you find so endearing right now is going to keep you up all night. Can you live with that? Then you can move in together. And then they've been living together for 3 years now. Karen saved herself 34 miserable seconds by not getting Hickey with it. He couldn't last 34 seconds if he thought about baseball and his old math teacher. He's a one-pump jump, I'll bet you that. Karen said, let's screw Hick, and said, wait, I have to pick out a ring. Yeah, and then she ghosted him because she was just there to get some attention. Hey, Kathy, thank you for coming. You're such a good grifter. Here's money for the electrical bill. Thank you, T-Rex. You don't have to do that. You have grifted me already paid for more than my electrical bill and the StreamYard today. But thank you so much. Very much appreciated. But yeah, that was kind of Dr. Stonebridge. A good 2 hours about that. I don't know how much I'm going to stream over the weekend. I might go see Baby Baker again if they have time for me. And I haven't found any guests who want to join me over the weekend. My problem isn't that I can't make money. It's I can't find guests. But I wish you a happy weekend. I think maybe lawyer is trying to cook up something with 4 different lawyers to discuss. thank you, Diane Moore, for an empty super chat. I hope you didn't want to put something in and hit send too early, but thank you so much. But if he is, keep an eye on it, and I think it'll be a great show. He didn't say who it could be, but 4 different lawyers who looks at the Karen Reed case. Betterow, Melanie, Andrea, Bronkel, potentially. That could be a great show. So keep an eye out for that. I think it'll be a great show. And I'm going to send you over to a channel I found yesterday. Because I like when I'm not streaming myself, I just go around and see who is live out there. So what the heck, aren't they streaming anymore? What? Sorry, let me just recheck this, because they were just streaming 2 minutes ago. And I wanted to give them a little help, because yeah, they should be live. Yeah, I'm gonna chuck you all over there. So please give them my love, and give them some donuts in the chit chat, and like and subscribe and all the good stuff to them. Thank you, Volsom. I think Adiva and Valhalla painting Sunday. I think Valhalla is trying to set it up, but everyone have a great rest of the Friday, and come back for some more sometimes. Do all the things that you hate us talking about. Hasta la taco.
Yes, I did
Out.
examine his lower extremities. That is protocol in any case of suspected impact with a motor vehicle. So I did examine his legs, and I did not see any evidence of an impact site.
Just pin it on the girl, right?